It's our 30-second count. Good evening, Lewis. How are you?
I'm very well, Daniel. How are you?
I'm really good. I'm in. I don't know if you've been following my mushroom saga on Twitter, but I'm in alternative accommodation.
Absolutely. It's the most interesting reason that a human is a hotel in the last 12 months.
Yeah, that's right. I'm not in quarantine. I'm being quarantined away from my own house, which is currently being under quarantine.
I think tell the full story. It's insane. You're being attacked by a fungus.
Yeah, so the March rains. We're suffering La Nina here in Australia. There was lots of rain in March, and a week the rain went for about 6 or 7 days. It didn't hold up at all, and then 2 days after that, I got a strange finger poking through the ceiling of my house in my bedroom, followed by another strange finger, these black fingers creeping through the ceiling. And I was freaked out. But I took these photos. They were dripping, they were mushy, and it was disgusting. And then the next morning I woke up and they turned into mushrooms. Mushrooms were growing out of my ceiling. And then 2 days after I got rid of them, I was like, luckily I had some spare masks around, Lewis, because of the pandemic. Donned some gloves, got rid of the mushrooms. Then 2 days later, I had more fingers poking their way through the ceiling. Then 2 days after that, I had another set of fingers poking their way through the ceiling. And anyway, I just couldn't bear being in there any longer. And thankfully, the landlord is sorting it out. And hopefully there's no more aliens creeping out of my ceiling.
Yeah, the best thing about it is because your house is in Sydney, it's still worth $5 million.
There's no, yeah, and if I wanted to buy the house, I wouldn't even be able to buy this fungus-ridden house.
Well, no, the real estate agent would add the fungus as a bonus. It would be, there's 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a parking spot, and this beautiful fungus, very unique to the area. It's already paying rent.
People in my neighborhood pay good money to go to breakfast to have fungus like that on their plates. Speaking of people who pay good money, Lewis, our Patreon supporters, big thank you to Georgia A. Pete Lawler is back on the Patreon. Thank you, Pete. David George. Kasia Zanotta has joined us. Also, some guy called Rod the Badger Matthews is now a supporter on our Patreon.
A cousin of the honey badger?
I don't know. Big thank you to Rod the Badger Matthews. Now, we've got some live shows coming up. We're doing 2 big shows in climate vulnerable areas. One about energy transition in Newcastle on June the 5th, which is going to be great. We've got Kirsten Drysdale for that, James Pender from Sammy J, Lewis, you're doing it, and also we've got Georgia Woods from Lock the Gate is joining us on stage as well for that. That's June 5th in Newcastle at the Playhouse. Tickets for that go on sale on Monday. June 13th, we're going to Bega to do jokes about bushfires and resilience and grief. That's going to be good.
And
one of our guests. And cheese, hopefully cheese, Bega, Australia's least problematic cheese. Gabbi Bolt is joining us there. Dylan Bain is also joining us on both those shows as well. He's from Newsfighters. They're joining us tonight on this podcast. And also one more show to announce. We are pulling together a gigantic panel of Sydney's favourite satirists, and we're going to be arguing that satire is more important than journalism or not at the Judith Nielsen Foundation at their brand new building in Sydney on June 24th. Now, that is a free show. All the information will be in the show notes. If you're in Sydney in June 24th, do come along to that. That one's got people like Alex Lee, Mark Humphreys, the well-known satirist Lewis Hobba, and Walkley Award winner Kathy Wilcox, as well as Alice Fraser from The Bugle as well.
That's huge.
Huge show. Now, I'm recording my end of Irrational Fear on Gadigal land of the Eora Nation. Sovereignty was never ceded. We need a treaty. Let's start the show. Tonight, Australia gets its own Space Force. Scott Morrison saying he's keen to find out new locations of Australian war crimes before Four Corners does. And Tesla will no longer accept Bitcoin in exchange for cars due to the environmental impact and will only accept lithium from dictators of third world countries who promise to do empathy training. And Matt Damon does a live cross to television to the United States from a pokies room in a pub in New South Wales and subsequently learns that Australians have a very different definition of what a VIP room is. It's the 14th of May 2021. And where was the relief package for podcasters in the budget, Mr. Speaker? This is Irrational Fear. Welcome to Irrational Fear. I'm your host, former SNL cast member and star of the upcoming comedy feature film High School High, Dan Ilic. And this is Irrational Fear, the podcast that marinates in a hot tub of disaster, because what else can you do? This is our budget special. Please, let's meet our fearmongers for tonight. She's the newest employee in the Chasers content mines. It's the musical queen of the Central West. It's Gabbi Bolt.
Hey! I like that.
Welcome, Gabbi. How has the Chaser been for you as an employee, as an employer so far? Are they treating you fine?
Yeah, it's been great. I've had to learn to not be scared in several situations very quickly. Which is, it's been, but it's great. It's a job. So they're treating me great.
A lot of people who work with the Chasers say that, it's a job.
No. Oh, God, don't get me fired. If Charles watches this, I'm done. That's it. I've loved it so far.
We've all worked with the Chaser at one point. It's fine. And he's the keeper of this. He's the keeper of Australia's wackiest political clips from Australian TV history. It's from the Newsfighters podcast. It's comedy editor Dylan Bain.
Hey, hello everyone.
What wacky
If I'm a little bit tired, I was up till 5 a.m. covering the budget this week, so I'm still recovering from budget night.
And you can hear that all on your wonderful podcast, Newsfighters. Did you find a particularly wacky clip out of the budget for this week's Newsfighters?
Oh, look, I did find one that I think you'll be fond of, so stick around. We'll play it later on.
Excellent. And finally, he's the busiest man in show business because of the cost cuts the ABC have got him hosting Drive on Triple J and Breakfast on Classic FM. It's Lewis Hobba.
It's been brutal, Dan. The news that the ABC funding will be going down by another $10 million next year after the $100 million or so over the last decade. Unfortunately, Triple J is down to just a single J now. We've had to hand them in. It's been very heartbreaking.
This is our 2021 budget special, and yes, we're going to give you pretty lukewarm takes on the federal budget that was announced 4 days ago. Coming up a little later on in the podcast, we'll chat with friend of the show, Bryn O'Brien from the Australasian Centre for Corporate Responsibility. We'll ask her just how much money was allocated in the budget to avoid the catastrophic climate change-related collapse of all living things in Australia. But first, here's a message from this week's sponsor.
Now at Harvey Norman, you can make huge savings if you're me, Jerry Harvey.
We've made over $20 million from JobKeeper and have no interest. That's right, zero interest in paying it back anytime soon, even though our profits grew to 180% with sales of up to $5 billion as Aussies purchased our furniture, bedding, outdoor, computer and electrical products to soothe anxiety during a global pandemic and crippling recession that saw jobs get slashed and employment opportunities walk out the door, whereas other profitable businesses paid the cash back. Toyota paid cash back. Domino's paid cash back. Nick Scali paid cash back. Just Jeans, JJ Smiggle, Peter Alexander paid their JobKeeper cash back, and they didn't have to. They've gone completely mad.
It's no wonder people are calling me a huge douchebag.
Go, Harvey Norman, go!
It's all good. We have to talk about money because it is the budget. Tonight, I should also point out that we have a merch store. What a great opportunity. We've got a range of hoodies, T-shirts, stickers. Lewis, we've even got a pillow that you can scream into if things get bad. So if you want if you want to buy some stuff from a merch store, check out the link in the show notes. This week's first fear. Move over, United States. Australia is getting its own Space Force. Yes, not content with stopping the boats of undocumented aliens, Scott Morrison is going to try and stop extraterrestrial aliens. Space Force has announced... Sorry, I've got a burp. The Space Force announcement comes a week after the senior defense figure made a statement that the armed conflict with China was inevitable. When they heard this, all 2.8 million members of the Chinese Defense Force laughed in perfect unison and then said about downloading the browser history of our parliamentarians. Fearmongers, do we need a Space Force?
I feel like we just need to start fixing the problems that are here first. Just on this realm of Earth. I feel like there's a few things that the Liberal Party probably should address on Earth.
Such small thinking, Gabby. Such 2021 thinking. You got to look into the future. We've got a bunch of submarines that can't stay down. If they're always going up, maybe just don't stop them at the surface and see if they'll keep on drifting up to the moon.
We could just stick everybody in the current Parliament House in there too. Chuck them up.
Move Canberra to a place with no roundabouts, the moon, and see how they go.
It's always question time on the moon.
I think, what's the science centre in Canberra?
CSIRO?
Yeah.
Questacon? I don't know. I've only been to Canberra once with Dan for a sketch, and the
one with the
very
games,
hazy memories. Yeah, Questacon would love going to the moon, wouldn't they? Being on the moon.
Of course they would, but what does Australia need with a space force? We have, by definition, a lot of space. We are a continent. We've got space on the ground we could administer first.
Look, I think America's Space Force is just going so absolutely well at the moment. I watched Joe Biden's speech to Congress. He almost mentioned it once, almost. So I mean, if it's going so well in America, surely we have to do it as well.
But looking at the detail of this article, it's really interesting to see that Space Force is actually just going to administer space traffic over Australia, as if that's something they can do. Because it's getting quite cluttered in space, they just need someone to go, no, don't go that way, go this way.
So they're just going to be like the road services in New South Wales and just get a bunch of Irish backpackers to stand at the
with the
top with the sign.
But no, you can't go there, satellite.
It's such a strange thing. Does it need to be a military sub kind of department? That sounds like something that the roads and maritime could do, surely.
Oh my God. I would love to go down to like RACV or the RTA and just be like, look, I've got a couple of problems. Obviously, I need a new license plate. My parking permit's run out, and I really need my satellite to just zoom over the Nullarbor.
Can I please get my Space Cadet license, please?
Yeah. As someone who's just tried to get their car registration moved from Victoria to New South Wales, the idea that they could traffic a fucking satellite is so fucking insane. They don't know how to let a car go from Victoria to New South Wales, a land track. You know what I mean? And I'm not the first to do it. I'm not a pioneer. I'm not the first Victorian to move to New South Wales. What the fuck is going on?
Lewis, you're confusing. Lewis, you're confusing this podcast with Twitter. This is what Twitter.
Anyway, I think it's good that the military are doing it. The less the RTA do, the fucking better.
Well, it's kind of interesting. Like the federal government is starting this, but they might end up shifting it to the states because that's what they always do. They always push all the most important things to the states. So soon there's going to be 6 space forces run by 6 different premiers, all argue over which satellites should be flying over which state.
Who's in charge of space quarantine? ScoMo will say it's the states. The states will say it's federal.
It'd be great spot for Dan Andrews right now, though, if they did give him control. Imagine just floating around and recovering from your back injury in 0 G.
Perfect. That is absolutely perfect. He could just absolutely relax up there. And then, dare I say, Steve Price will have a reason to complain. Like, where is Dan Andrews, mate? He's in orbit. Forget it. You know, we've told you a million times, Steve. He's in orbit recovering from his back surgery. This week's second fear. In the budget, there was plenty of money for broadcasters. SBS got an additional $29 million for their language services. I mean, they already make so many programs in all sorts of languages around the world. So now they're going to move into making languages for speakers of Esperanto and Pig Latin, which is great. The other broadcaster, however, ABC, didn't get a cent. In fact, will suffer a shortfall of $10 million in operational funding. This is $10 million on top of the $100 million that's been cut from the ABC over the last 10 years. I've got some ideas. Four Corners has one corner too many, to be honest. And surely you only need one banana in one set of pajamas. And News 24 doesn't need to go 24 hours a day. Maybe they could go 1 hour on, 1 hour off, or share with Sky News. You know, that's probably a way to really bring that fair and balanced angle to it. Fearmongers, what have the ABC, I mean, what do you think can be done with the ABC? How can the ABC save money?
I think, remember that show that used to be on SBS after midnight, which was just fish in a jar? Do you guys remember the fish?
Yes.
It was like, basically at midnight, they just put a camera on a fish tank and that was it. Yeah. It just ran and you just watched goldfish from like midnight to 6. And apparently that is now the kind of behavior that gets you jacked up $29 million. So if you wanted to downsize News 24 to like News 12, News 12, Fish 12.
That's a great idea. That's a really good idea. Gabby, as someone who makes content for free for a Chinese multinational company,
I don't have any opinion about money and arts. Yeah, I do everything for nothing. I've accepted that I will be broke in the arts for the rest of my life. A bit of money's nice. If they wanted to swing some of that $10 million they're cutting from the ABC to my way, that'd be great. But I don't think they're going to somehow.
I do think that obviously the budget's so skewed so heavily to old people, as it often does with the coalition. It's from franking credits to not caring about the future of the world. But I don't think they realize how old ABC viewers are. You know what I mean? Like the average age is like 60.
The only people who watch the ABC are the only people with franking credits. Surely,
if you want to give $17 billion to aged care, that's what the ABC is. The ABC is a giant aged care facility. We should be getting some of that $18 billion.
What are old people going to watch all day if there's no News 24?
Where are they going to work?
Look, yeah, exactly.
It's from cradle to grave. You've got ABC Kids, which is what parents put their kids in front of, and then you've got no one watches the ABC from their 20s and 30s and 40s. And then,
I would like to just put my hand up there and say, Triple J is a wonderful and valued youth broadcaster on the ABC.
Soon to be Jay.
Look, having worked at the ABC a lot myself over the last 15 years, one way they can save money is get rid of that once a decade clean they do of the kitchens. I think just get rid of that. That'll save some cash.
Yeah, they could get rid of the buckets that they use to catch the drips when it rains. That's a big spend for us.
They could hire me for nothing.
That's true. Slavery is an interesting option.
Yeah.
I don't know, Gabby. I don't know if you want that life. That's the life I do. I'm a professional guest at the ABC, and I spend a lot of time there, putting in a lot of hours, just for free, just to get my face out there, which is great. I don't know if you're keen on that, but it's available to you.
There's a reason your new employers, the Chaser, don't work there anymore. You know what I mean? They wanted to buy their second house.
We're still. I don't know what my job is here.
Yes. They're from the generation where you used to get paid to make comedy. They're not used to this new world.
It's wild.
As someone who was in the building today, I did notice that there was probably too many lifts. I was like, they could get rid of a couple of lifts and maybe Airbnb them out.
You could live there, Dan. We could move some fungus in.
Yes.
Perfect. I could start a cooking show with Adam Liao. I do have an idea. I had an idea that maybe, because the ABC don't really sell anything. I mean, they sell a bit of merch online, they sell TV shows, but there's nothing straight to consumer. I thought maybe they could change, maybe like Julia Zamiro's home delivery. I thought maybe Julia Zamiro could just get paid to deliver anything, like a courier service for the ABC.
Yes.
I just thought
Julia Zamiro.
Enough of her driving around with celebrities getting paid for it. She needs to pull her weight.
I'm just going to give her a call now and pitch it to her, see what she thinks. Hello, JZ.
Hello.
You're on the Irrational Fear podcast. We've got Gabby, Dylan, and Lewis on the line with you.
Hi, Julia.
Now,
Hello.
I don't know if you're aware, Julia, but the ABC has got a $10 million shortfall because of this budget that's been released. Yeah, $10 million. I wanted to know from you personally what kind of things you're going to do to help save the ABC and their budget. I mean, you are a very prominent ABC personality.
Yeah.
You must have something in your back pocket that you can cut from the shows that you do on the ABC.
Look, may I just say, in all seriousness, in the last 8 seasons of home delivery, I've always done my own makeup, and I get my own hair done the night before in whatever local town we're in to put some money back into their economy. And I'm not joking. So I'm doing it anyway.
So you actually you go to the local towns, the local bakery, and have the best local pie that they have there?
Correct. So, we go to many different country towns. We're there the night before. And because I can't be bothered doing my own hair and doing good blow dry, I'll find any random hairdresser. I go in, I introduce myself, I get my hair done. I pay for it myself. I use it as a tax deduction because it's work. Because also we start so early in the morning, I don't want to start at 5 o'clock and do an hour and a half of makeup. I do my own simple makeup. So I'm already saving the ABC time and money. Now, if we ever do home delivery again in these COVID times, I reckon we'll just do it in a park. No car, no school. We're just going to imagine and bring in some actors to act out their life like a life improv game, just to remind them how it went.
But
the easiest way.
Jules, have you ever thought about putting a price on what you do and charging the consumer for your home delivery? Like, it's like instead of Uber Eats, it's Uber Meats. Julia Zamiro's home delivery, actually a service you provide. We could get people to pay you there and pay the ABC to actually deliver things for them.
Yeah, and look, whatever it would be low. I do really wish people would understand that when you work at the ABC, you really don't get top dollar. And I don't mind because I like working for that organisation, mainly because when you're in the corridors, the people you speak to actually have an opinion on something. So I quite like all that. I'll happily do that. But it's in the corporate world where you're allowed to charge a little bit more. For the ABC, you do it because you feel like your voice is actually heard and they're not going to edit you within an inch of your life. So, look, all I can do is just keep doing my own makeup, keep doing my own hair, and look, I'll charge, $20. I'll charge you $20 for it.
Julia, I think the reason they don't edit you to within an inch of your life is because they had to fire the editors with the last rounds of budget cuts.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, you're
Julia,
right.
if you ever need somebody to do your hair for you, I'll happily do it.
Oh, darling, I would love that also. But look,
I'm out for a capital.
I would rather put money into Griffith or my money into Ballarat or my money into Melbourne or my money into Sydney, into a little wherever we might be in the middle of nowhere and going, here you go, and you talk and you get a bit of goss on the town as well. So it's sort of research at the same time, finding out, and then they might say, why are you here? And you go, oh, well, I don't know if you know, but Stan Grant's from Griffith. And like, yeah, Stan. And you go, okay, don't say it too loud because then they know you're filming the next day. But, it's a way of getting to know people, and I love it. I also do what I want to with Rockwiz, with SBS. I get my hair blow dried whatever town we're in, and because I think you'll find they've got even less money.
Julia, now sorry, hang on a second.
Getting another call.
Another call.
Sorry. No, yeah, Julia, this $10 million that was that's being lost is actually to do with regional programming. Are you dropping that kind of money where you're going? Are you like this? Are you currently the Santa Claus for regional programming, and you're dropping like 500,000 here, 500,000 there? Is this a serious coin?
It's probably $50 a hair blow dry. In some towns it's 40. But we do eat. We always go to a pub and have something to eat. So we are eating in those regions as well.
Right.
And yeah, I reckon if you looked at the 80 episodes that we've done of home delivery, you'd find that I reckon say a good half of them are in country towns. We took Barry Cassidy back to Chiltern. And we had a delicious meat pie there and a delicious flat white. It's possible. It was delicious.
You don't see Eddie Maguire going to Chiltern, do you? You just don't. You
Nah.
never
Oh,
will.
no.
So while you're getting the pies, Julia, you can drop some off down the street if people order them on an app on your phone for us, surely, right? That'd be all right.
Yep,
Yeah.
I can do that. I'm happily
Perfect.
do that. I'm quite a good, safe driver.
Great. Well, we've got to.
If you ever find yourself needing to go to Bathurst for any reason, I can tell you now, Julia, my mum would have a field day.
Really?
Yes.
Fantastic.
She would probably faint. So I'm telling you, if you find anyone famous enough from Bathurst to take back there, you have to let us know, because my mother would, like, she's not even an owner of any kind of cafe, but she'd probably buy one just for you.
Well, we started Tim Ferguson's episode in Bathurst.
Of course.
And we were on the Hardy Ferodo one thing track, and then we pretty much quickly went to Canberra because the next bulk of his life was in Canberra. So I was there for 5 minutes.
Oh,
Damn.
well, there's always time.
We'll be back.
Next
All
time,
We'll be
Julia.
back if we ever get commissioned again.
Julia.
If we ever get commissioned again.
Thanks for joining us on Irrational Fear. I look forward to downloading the Julia Zemura home delivery app where I can pick anything I want to be delivered by you for a small nominal fee that'll go to the ABC. Really appreciate it. Have a good night.
Have a lovely night, you beautiful chickens.
Jay-Z there. Now, finally, Dylan, you put together a bit of an extraordinary review of this week's budget on the Newsfighters podcast. What did you discover when you were putting it together?
Thank you very much, Dan. It was a fascinating budget. It was everyone was saying it was a Labor budget from the coalition in that they were spending money on everything. So yes, maybe Space Force will happen. But the big thing that gets me every time, being a Sydney sider, is housing. Now, Dan, I know you're having some issues with housing. You'd probably like some housing.
Where's the fungus budget?
Yes, where's the fungus budget? And housing shaping up could be a big election issue. Tonight, as we're recording this, I just caught a little bit of Albo's budget reply speech. He's allocating $10 billion for social and affordable housing, which I think in Sydney will be about 20 studio apartments, right?
In Bondi, it's one studio apartment.
Oh, yes. But the big announcement out of Josh Frydenberg's budget, one of the big announcements for housing had to do with single parents. Now, I was raised by a single mum, so this is a big issue for me. And they've developed this interesting policy, I think largely to silence Albo, as he was raised in government housing with a single mum. So now he can't say they don't have a policy about this. So the policy the government's announced is single parents can buy a house with as little as a 2% deposit as the government guarantees the rest. Now, I did some maths on Newsfighters about this. Do you know what the average cost of a house in Sydney is these days?
Yeah, it's like 1 million. Or something.
It's like 1.3 million.
Jesus.
And to pay that without going into mortgage stress, you have to have a household income of $170,000 a year. Now, I don't know many single parents on $170,000 a year. Do you guys?
No, but if they're out there and want to be my parents, I am quite happy to be adopted by you.
But don't worry, the government has a way to make this affordable. They've imposed a property price cap to limit the maximum cost of the house that single parents can buy. And in Sydney, it's $700,000, Melbourne $600K, Brisbane $475,000, and the other capitals, it's $400,000. And on top of that, it's only going to support 10,000 people over 4 years. Now, $400,000 can't buy you much. In fact, the clip I found has even Alan Jones thinks this policy is absolute garbage. Have a listen to his take on
his
it.
toilet's worth
120,000 single parents are going to be eligible, they told us, to shift from long-term renting to owning a home with as little as 2% deposit. Now, even a $400,000 home, Terry, and I don't know where you find that, would need an $8,000 deposit. What?
Well, that's going to be my new ringtone. What?
What? God. Lewis, you're going to say something before I cut you off?
I was just going to say, the idea of like, I can't even remember now. What was it? $400,000? Like
$400,000.
Alan Jones would. Every single individual room of Alan Jones's would be worth more than $400,000.
How is Alan Jones more in touch than Morrison and Frydenberg on what the value of a house is? Like, how is anyone? You can't get a family house even in Sydney for $700,000. Like,
Not at
it's just
all, yeah.
ridiculous. But then the thing for young people, they've announced to get into first home buying is an extension of the First Home Super Saver scheme. So young people now can raid up to $50,000 of their super for their house deposit, which I don't know. Does that sound like a lot to you? I think that's all your super.
Do you know what? $50,000 is about the average, is about the mean, how much the mean has gone up in Sydney over the last 3 months. I know this.
Just the last 3 months, yeah.
Yeah, because I've saved almost $50,000 for a house deposit. And then I saw this article that said the average house price has gone up $50,000 in 3 months. I'm like, what have I been doing the last few years? This is crazy. Like, in order to maintain that 20% deposit, if you had a 20% deposit, I saw another article for the Domain, said you would have to bank $1,500 a week over that last 3 months to maintain that 20% deposit. That is mental. Like, I might as well just give up. Like, I might as well just move to. Oh, it's Gabby. I feel so sorry for you. I might as well move to Bathurst. No offense, Gabby.
No, in Bathurst, an average house is about $450,000 for a family.
We
could all go in on it if you want to.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think I've even seen $50,000. My super has about $3,000 in it. I actually made the joke that when I was really, really poor about a year ago, I thought about just declaring myself bankrupt, and you can just get access to some of that money. It's not even that much. I also had the thought that if I had to pass away, I'm not leaving anybody with anything.
Yeah, I always thought like my retirement plan would be to have a really great 2 weeks and then end it all in a place.
Well, that's basically what they're saying with all the housing policies at the moment. They're saying raid your super, and then there's this new thing they announced is they want boomers to downsize to free up properties. So boomers, if they downsize, can put $300,000 of their house, whatever's left over from their house when they downsize into their super. But it's like our generation is going to be lucky to be in a studio apartment. The only way you can downsize from a studio apartment is into a trailer, a van. like how are we going to downsize?
That's what, listening to like the way that the budget dealt with home prices, it's like hearing people I know talk about Bitcoin. Like, it's people who are already in there trying to trick you into getting in after them just to prop up the mistake that they made, because they know it's a sham. It's a fucking pyramid scheme. And I mean, I would live in a pyramid now at the moment. Anyway,
I agree with you on that point there, Lewis, except when I hear people talking about Bitcoin, I tune out, and it's the same way I react to the people talking about housing costs. When I'm just never going to have a house.
when people say to me, you really should get into crypto, what I hear is you should really get into playing the pokies.
I'm going to put everything on GameStop and rocket to the moon. Woo!
You can get a lift from Space Force.
Yeah.
Yes. Very great. All right. Our next guest is the Executive Director of the Australasian Centre for Corporate Responsibility. It's her job to hold companies to account for being good corporate citizens, but from the inside. It's Bryn O'Brien. Welcome, Bryn.
Hello. I'm excited. We're talking about superannuation.
Classic comedy
just
fodder.
The pause there. Yeah, it's beautiful. No, I love it because
it's
we're talking
budget
about
week.
Well, no, but it's so totally related, right? We're talking about so the government setting it up so that young people can start drawing down on their super is like stealing from your future self, which is basically what they're doing with this absolutely shithouse budget from a climate perspective. Anyway, I'm just going to launch in.
I would steal from my future self, though, if I had the chance, given a time machine.
Don't do it, Lewis. Don't steal from your future self.
But my future self, what's he doing with it? You know what I mean? I can pump forward.
He's old. Don't steal from your kids and grandkids, maybe? Is that a better?
I don't have any. I'm just the only person I'm hurting is myself, and I'm already broke. How bad could it be?
I think we need an intervention for Lewis.
Now, Bryn, happy budget week to you, or is it a happy budget week? I should probably ask.
Oh, look, it's pretty much like any other week under this kind of regime. The gas cash splash continues. People have been asking me in the last couple of days, is this budget good for the climate. Where are we at? And it's worse than bad. Like, it's not even a neutral budget. It's continuing to spend more of taxpayers' money on the causes of climate change and none of the solutions. Like, it's absolute rubbish.
So how much money comparatively was spent on fossil fuels versus climate action?
So no money's being spent on climate action. So none.
Now, is that a major problem? Like, is climate change a real problem that we should be?
Is nothing enough? I think is what Stan asking.
Yeah, that's why. Can we do less?
Well, we can do less than we are. I mean, we're spending money on more like $200 million more on roads to support gas development in the Northern Territory, like $60 million just directly throwing it at the gas industry. We've got, $260-something million on carbon capture and storage for fossil fuels, which is, I'm not going to even go into carbon capture and storage because it's horrifying. But
we talk about that a lot on our podcast, so you don't have to.
Good, great. So, and then no money on electric vehicles, but $35 million on forward estimates. Sorry, 35. There's a lot of coin on diesel tax subsidies for multinational mining companies. Like, it's totally mad. I'm struggling because of just the absolute crap of this budget.
I'm sensing that maybe if you work in renewable energy or you work in electrification or you work in this space, the best thing you can do is to pretend to be a fossil fuel company and, call yourself the big coal company, but you make windmills instead. Is that probably a smarter move?
Look, AGL's trying to do that actively at the moment, I think. So, I probably asked their marketing department. But, yeah, it's pretty bad.
Yeah, right.
As someone, Bryn, you work in a place that has corporate responsibility in their name, how often do you encounter corporate responsibility?
That's a good one. In Australia, not a lot. And, on climate, right? I mean, there's some companies doing some stuff around buying big renewables, renewable electricity. There's some kind of lithium mining going on, that sort of stuff. But in terms of, ASX listed, we've got some massive oil and gas companies, some very large diversified miners that, just enjoy massive subsidies and very little pressure to decrease their emissions. Yeah, it's pretty bad.
When you see a big company like Fortescue and Twiggy making lots of noises about hydrogen and moving to more sustainable practices, how do you view those sentiments that are kind of being aired, particularly in the last few months, where he seems to be all gung-ho on really rapidly transitioning out of fossil fuels into hydrogen?
Yeah, so I think Twiggy's position on hydrogen is a bit unclear, whether he's talking about kind of properly green renewable hydrogen or gas hydrogen, blue hydrogen as they call it. And the ambition is there. The plan to get there is unclear. Twiggy is also, I think, one of the, his company Squadron Energy is the recipient of a $30 million subsidy under this budget for a Port Kembla gas import terminal. So there's some confounding things about Twiggy and his plans. But, if you look at FMG's kind of Scope 3 iron ore decarbonisation ambition, it's pretty amazing, but the plan's not there.
And Scope 3 means emissions after the product has been shipped and has been burnt somewhere else, right? Bryn, now, you said import terminal. But forgive me if I'm wrong. Isn't Australia the biggest exporter of gas? Why do we need to build import terminals?
Well, we don't need to, but so we sell gas and then it gets resold to us for cheaper than we sell it, or some
what?
random.
What? How do I get in on this scam? This is amazing.
There was a great article by Dan Ziffer a couple of years back about how gas gets exported out from Western Australia onto boats, shipped to Japan, gets imported in Japan. The Japan exports it back to Australia because John Howard, when he set up the gas exports initially, dedicated so much gas to Asian countries and to other countries that there wasn't enough for local supply. And in order to guarantee local supply, we had to re-import the gas from Japan. So Japan's gas ends up getting back on boats, recompressed, brought to Australia and imported. So we actually pay
and there's also no methane leakage, and of course, and there's no, it's a really not energy intensive process to compress gas. No, that's total bullshit. Like it's horrifying. Yeah. The other really exciting thing in the budget, or the kind of response of the gas industry to the budget, was there's this item in the budget which is a levy on the oil and gas industry, offshore oil and gas industry, of about 250 Australian dollars. They don't know how exactly they're going to raise it, but they're going to raise it from the industry over a kind of undefined period of time to deal with remediation of like offshore oil rigs in the Timor Sea. And so this is like the only kind of like thing that the budget does to kind of put some responsibility on the gas industry for remediating its horrible impacts. And APPIA, the industry body that represents the petroleum industry, was absolutely livid about it. Like they just put out this wild statement afterwards, just going like, this will not stand. We will not clean up our mess. It's just the entitlement is insane.
Really? Oh God. Yeah. It's so strange. Like you see how when these mines get put together and they go in there and they dig up all this stuff, in that process of pitching to state governments for that, they often put in remediation stuff in there going, yeah, no, we'll clean it up. And then the Minerals Council puts out these ads and billboards that you see in buses everywhere with a man on a horse going, this used to be a mine. And it's like in the middle of a paddock. But if you know anything about mining, it's a very precarious industry, and often those mines go bankrupt and there's no money to fill in the holes. It's like the Minerals Council is actually like absolutely lying to you. No, that never used to be a mine. That was a stock photo you bought off Getty Images, and the hole that exists still exists as a hole.
I'd love to know what they say when there's like a giant offshore drilling outpost, and they're like, that offshore drilling? No, that's my cubby house. Look, it's just a little cubby. It's a little offshore cubby.
That's a natural squid that squirts ink into the sky.
Bryn, I don't know how you don't have a heart attack. I'm having just like caught up on some of this right now. I was already so angry about not being able to afford a house, and now I'm like, well, fuck the house.
Lewis,
who cares?
In the budget, Lewis, there is a line for $52 million for 2 different gas plants. And then there's another line for $60 million to work out. So gas plants create methane. And then there's a line for $60 million to help agriculture figure out what kind of foods to feed its animals to decrease methane.
What about the oil refineries, though? There's like, let's keep the oil refineries open for longer with taxpayers' money. Great, but no money for electric vehicles, so we don't need oil refineries anymore.
Anyway, Bryn,
so cheerful.
It's very cheerful. Look, I want to. Oh, Lewis, you're going to say something?
Oh no! I mean, sorry, I was still stuck back on the fact that we ship gas and then buy it back. I'm furious. Also, you may know this by listening to me over the last however long. I don't know much about gas and its export. But don't put it on a ship. Put it in balloons and let the winds take it.
All right, let's play Hang On a Sec now. Now, when we're going to play you a clip, if you want to chime in and say something, just say hang on a sec. This is a clip of Keith Pitt, who is the Minister for Resources and Water in Northern Australia. And he, this week, ditched plans for a wind farm in Queensland because, quote, it was inconsistent with the objectives and policies of the Commonwealth Government. And this is him on Sky News defending his choices to, dare I say, a really good journalist on Sky News. I'm going to play it. If you want to chime in and say something, just say, hang on a sec. Here we go.
Okay. So can you tell me, though, what size, for a 157 megawatt wind farm, what size battery do you need to make it dispatchable?
Well, Tom, what I can tell you is that intermittent wind and solar
that's a basic question.
Is not dispatchable.
But it is with the battery if it's big enough.
Well, I've made a decision based on what was.
Yeah, but hang on, but that's just a basic question. I know you've got an engineering background. Solar or wind is not dispatchable unless it has a battery. That's true, right? Depending on the size of the battery.
Well, unless it's got other sources. It could be hybrid, it could be gas, it could be tied up with a hydro, it could be pumped hydro. There's any number of combinations.
Battery.
Could be diesel.
Could be battery.
Hang on a sec. That little riff he does on all the things it could be. It's like the gas, or it's like the climate change denial version of "I've been everywhere, man."
Yeah, let me just play that bit again. That was a really good observation. Here we go. Well, it could be.
Unless it's got other sources. It could be hybrid, it could be gas, it could be hydro, it could be pumped hydro. There's any number of combinations. It could be diesel.
Could be anything but a battery.
As long as it's spewing emissions into the sky, yeah.
It could be battery.
It could be any number of things.
But it could be a battery.
This car can do.
That's
When I watched it.
Exactly, yeah.
It sounds staged. I thought when I first saw this, I thought somebody was trying to stunt Sky News. I thought it was one of the Chaser boys.
Yeah,
it seems wrong. Yeah.
The writing is so good. It's very, very funny.
The Chaser would be in a giant costume of some kind.
Yeah, it'd be Craig Rucastle in the shape
of battery.
In the shape of a battery.
Yeah. Number of things.
But it could be a battery.
Tom, as I've said many times.
So yeah, I just don't understand why you won't agree that it could be that a battery can back up a wind farm.
Well, as I've said, it comes down to a whole pile of decisions, including capacity, availability.
But I'm not going to that. I'm just asking.
Hang on a sec. I just want to know who the government hired to teach spin, because whoever it is not making enough money.
Or like
the way that he just spun the answer to that question.
Who they hire just on the delivery. Like Keith Pitt's delivery, his pacing is absolutely incredible. You know, like hand it to him. Like his name's Keith Pitt, and he runs the mining bit, the pits, and also, but just like his delivery is just spot on. It's amazing. That's the only good thing I'll say about it.
They might not be able to represent the country well, but they definitely could win like a primary school public speaking or debating contest for sure.
Yeah, like you could just go up to this person and not even give it context, just be like, Keith, yes or no? And he'd be like,
adjectives.
Well, it's much more complicated than that, I'm afraid. Yeah, there's also a maybe.
Decisions, including capacity, availability.
But I'm not going to that. I'm just asking, can a battery back up a wind farm?
Well, once again, how big is it? How long does it run for? What is it we want it to do?
A big enough battery, can it back up a wind farm?
Well, this is pretty broad and hypothetical, Tom.
It seems like a simple question. If a battery's big enough, it can back up a wind farm, right?
How big's big enough?
Well, I don't know. You tell me.
That's the exact question.
Okay, all right. We'll move on.
I just love that last one. I just love.
Imagine going to a restaurant with this man. Imagine going to a restaurant with Keith. Keith, what do you want for dinner? Oh, I don't know. It could be an entree. It could be a main. It could be dessert. It could be an afters. Could be a wine. Could be a beer.
What I do know, it's definitely not a salad. Can't. Definitely don't want a salad, but it could be soft serve. It could be some breadsticks. Could be some garlic bread.
You'd be there forever. Your food cold. He's still ordering off the menu.
No leafy greens for me. Thank you.
No.
There's actually a great Mark Humphrey sketch from, I think, back in his the feed days of a Canberra politician going to a restaurant. I highly recommend you check it out, Gabby. I think
I will.
It'll be right up your alley. It's really good.
I love it.
This was at the moment where they both start laughing. Like when
they both know it's ridiculous. Yeah.
When you're like, they know the game, and which is kind of like watching it. There's a moment where I like giggled along. I was like, and then I went, oh, we're all going to die.
Well, that is it for Irrational Fear. Big thank you to all of our guests, Gabbi Bolt, Dylan Bain, Lewis Hobba, Bryn O'Brien. Now, you guys got anything to plug? Gabby, do you want to plug anything?
I do. I have a gig at The Girls Comedy on the 23rd of May, which is all-female comedian lineup, which is amazing. And I'll be performing in Bega with Irrational Fear on the 13th of June.
Woo! Yeah. Dylan Bain, you got any gigs to plug?
Yes, well, I'll be down in Bega with the Rational Fear doing the DJ stuff. And also the budget episode of Newsfighters this week, 20-minute non-stop laugh-a-thon take on the budget. Check it out I know, hard to believe, at newsfighters.com or wherever you get your podcast apps.
Sorry, can I also chime in? I forgot I have a new job. The Chaser has also got a podcast coming out.
Yes.
On the 24th of May. I forgot that I work there for like 10 minutes.
Gabby, if you ever need a guest, let me know. I'm available. Bryn, do you got anything to plug?
Go and check out our website, accr.org.au, and go and buy some shares in some fossil fuel stocks to help us change them.
And is that what people do? People can go to your website, buy shares through you for that?
No. People can go to our website and learn more about what we do, but they can go and buy shares in their own time with their own money. And so if you only had the only data you had about me was my share portfolio, you would think I was an absolute psychopath and I was a really shit investor, because it's like oil and gas, like, you know, the only thing that's keeping me going at the moment is the iron ore stocks, and they rely on like desecration of cultural heritage sites. So psychopath hedging through iron ore, but you know, it's bad.
So I've recently new to investing. Maybe I should sell all of my renewable shares and buy fossil fuel shares.
Don't do that. Don't do that. So don't do that.
Thank you. Lewis, you got anything to plug?
Sure. I mean, the other podcast I've been doing recently is called Simply the Jest. It's very good. We were recently up in the iTunes comedy charts, and this is why I want people to listen to it, because at the moment, well, when I went and looked at it, we were 4th, which was very good, but we were behind Joe Rogan, which is obviously infuriating, and 2 separate Hamish and Andy podcasts.
Hamish and Andy.
I'm like, and they're both lovely, and I wish them all the best. But how much more do they need?
Look, how many podcasts do you need, Lewis? You're on 3 now.
Yeah, I know, Dan. I just love working for free.
I was going to say that's definitely the way to boost your ratings. Just ask, beg.
Yeah, I was like, I've got a radio show that people listen to, but I much prefer to do work for free in the same medium for less money.
Big thanks to Road Mikes, the Bertha Foundation, our Patreon supporters, Killian David, Ads, Kieran, Sheepy, P. McNeil, Dave Bluestein, Lee Constable, and Discord. Also, big shout out to Rupert Degas for his sponsorship announcement, and Jacob Round on the Teppanyaki timeline. Until next week, there's always something to be scared of. Good night, and please come to see our live shows and buy some merch. Bye!
Woo!
Thanks, everyone. That was a long one, but Bryn, that was wonderful to have you on. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Yeah, great work, Bree. That was Bryn.